Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, Senior Writing Coach for Defend and Publish, and welcome to episode 24, Summer Reset Digital Teaching Files. If you're just joining us, last week we focused on looking at a physical office space and doing a summer reset there. And as a very fast recap, I just talked about what my messy office was not doing for me, and I showed some pictures of it and then explained some of the things that I was going to do in there in order to get some more productivity for writing. So what I'm looking at this week is the digital, I would say, backlog that I've let kind of happen over the past couple of years. And so I'm not going to work on any of the research or writing files I might have. So I just want to specify that this episode is going to be strictly on teaching and maybe a little bit of service. So other areas of academic life, I'm not going to focus on the writing or the research areas in terms of storage, because that's a whole other space where I keep those. But today, I know that at least, let's just pick teaching for a second. I know teaching has, for me, gotten a little bit backed up, where I do have a storage system for where I'm putting things like electronic copies of syllabi and course assignments and things like that. But then as I teach new courses or some courses get changed, I've got a bunch of old, outdated course things still hanging around in my files. I know some of the things I'm not going to do anymore. So for example, maybe I have a digital assignment sheet somewhere of an assignment that I know I'm not going to do again, or I've already tweaked it so much that one's not something that I need. So I wanted to walk us through what that thought process looks like to kind of clean up a little bit of those digital files. And as a recap, I talked about last week having the physical and the visual clutter of just walking into a messy office and not feeling like this would be a great space to do any teaching prep or writing. With the digital, for me, I'm finding that it's taking me longer and longer to find things that I need. And again, that does get at productivity in a way that, if I have to spend 20 minutes looking for a single assignment sheet, or I have to spend 45 making a new rubric because I can't find the one that I made last year. For me, I'm finding I'm having more and more of those moments. And yes, productivity is not everything. I do see all the conversation about Twitter productivity and how we shouldn't be doing that. But for me, it's just a level of frustration where if I just took a little bit of time, I know I could make things just be a little bit smoother for me. And I also wouldn't make mistakes. Like if, or for example, in my Canvas course, if I want to post a rubric, posting the wrong one because I didn't label it correctly. So, those are errors that of course, all of us make, but I have just found for me, particularly, during COVID with some homeschooling and just not having as much time to be able to focus on these issues, it's gotten a little bit out of hand. So this is how I'm going to reset this part in the summer, and hopefully these tips will help you. What I wanted to do was share a screen of what my documents look like right now. So yes, I have a lot of file names. Some of them make no sense at all. And so for those of you that aren't watching the visual or the YouTube video, let me just give you a couple of examples of things. I have a folder called New Unity Project. That is from a workshop that I did a very, very long time ago with a group of other scholars, where we got to actually make a video game and blow up cabbages while we learned how to do video gaming for digital humanities. So that was certainly a fun experience, and I really liked making the game. I thought it was cool, but that's not something I need all the time. But it's mixed in with things like, let me pick some examples. Well, there's a lot of different ones on here, but let's say I have an RC program. That's our rhetoric and composition program, the graduate program that I direct. That folder I use all the time. That folder is next to a folder called recipes. I don't even know why that's there. I haven't even opened that up to find out what is in there. So yeah, there's just a lot. And I'm imagining that many of your documents folders or desktops look similar. The desktop is a whole other thing that I may get to in a future episode. But right now I'm just looking at, if I needed to find a teaching item, or possibly maybe a committee item, if I was serving on a faculty committee, where would I find that? This would be my first stop. So opening up these, my one folder is called Finley Courses. I had named that Finley Courses way back when I was still doing some postdoctoral work at University of Michigan, and I had some film courses. So I had a film courses folder and a Finley courses folder. And so the Finley one is the one for my courses now. Over the time that I've been here, though, I've been here at least 18 years. I have, my position has changed so many times. I've taught so many different versions of courses that I just opened up my that folder for people to see on the YouTube video, and you can just see a wide range of different things that are in there. I also have very non-specific names. So I'm pretty familiar with the course numbers in the graduate courses. So those are like my 500 level courses, because I direct that program and I work with those courses all the time. But I've got some courses in there that are named and numbered. I don't even know what they are. So for example, I taught a doctoral writing course to our doctoral students in our College of Education area. And I know that course has some kind of a title. I kind of know it was about writing, but do I know what I was doing in there? Not necessarily. I'm not even sure what items are in there. So this is the kind of stuff that I wanted to focus on. And for me, I'm not going to try to tackle my entire documents folder and deal with all of that. For me, there's 3 goals that I wanted to work with this summer that I think will make this a little bit more smooth. One thing is that I am now so ingrained to go to this Finley courses folder. I don't want to move it. I don't want to put it anywhere. I want to leave it as it is, but just once I open it, make it not so overwhelming. And so one thing that I will do with it is I'm going to make a folder that has old courses, and I might just call it like previously taught courses or old courses or courses I no longer teach, or some nice title and a file folder that explains what it is, and dump all those courses in there that I know I'm probably never going to teach again. They might even be courses that don't exist anymore at the university. So I don't want to get rid of that stuff, because you just never know if you're going to need it again. I'm not a big fan of deleting that kind of work, but I'm just going to put it all in that folder, and then it's less visually tasking. So I'm really only looking at the course folders of courses I actually am teaching or will teach. So that's one of my strategies. Once I'm in a folder, and I'm going to pick, let's see, I will pick this. All right, I'm going to pick English 600, which is a thesis course. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see me actually opening it. If you're just listening, I'm opening up a file folder with a thesis course in there. I've got right now a couple of different versions of syllabi in there. I've got a couple of different worksheets and things like that. The other thing that I'm going to do is just take a quick scan of my dates and see the material in there. If anything in there is older than 5 years and I have not touched it or updated it to give it a newer date, those kinds of things, I'm also going to make a folder. And I might just say something like past, English 600 documents, and just drag them in there. Because again, what I'm trying to get at is just some quick visual clutter. And if this, this is something that I think works really well if you've got some time to kill, you can't get into a writing project. I do think that this will help a little bit, because it does save you those extra clicks of digging and trying to figure out, where's my class, where's my assignment, where's my, whatever it is you're looking for. So one place that I tackle this for anybody that may be traveling over the summer, I was previously doing some work in London, and on those long flights, that was one of the things I did to kind of pass the time, was to do a lot of deleting and getting rid of things and moving things. So certainly those long, car trips or plane trips, if you're not the one driving, that would be a way to maybe tackle some of this. Another way is just to give yourself a goal of working on just one course folder a day. For me, that's the way I'm going to handle it now. I'm not traveling anywhere, but I do want to make sure that I have the time to knock out some of this. And so the way that I'm going to work it is I'm going to start with just making a folder for those courses I'm no longer teaching, because I can identify those pretty quickly, because I can look at the number and have to think, I don't even know what that is. So that should be a pretty simple drag and drop. Once I do that, I'm going to get into my course folders and look at some of the content in there. And anything older, I'll put it in its own folder. Again, with teaching, I'm not deleting some of this stuff, because at least with most of our computers, there's enough room to keep it, and you just never know, especially for those of you that are on a tenure track job or have a contract renewal in a non-tenure track position, you just don't know what kind of evidence you're going to need. So just as somebody that trains people to go through tenure and promotion at Finley, I always tell people don't throw anything out. And this is a reason why I'm not even going to do it, even though I already have tenure, because you never know. We might have like a post-tenure review situation someday. So that's one of the things. The other thing that I'm going to do, in addition to looking at just my teaching folder, is I have a folder where I am kind of storing accomplishments. So for example, like emails from students or conference acceptances or things like that, that I know I'm going to need. I do have a folder that is doing that for me, and I will jump over to that on my screen for a second. But right now it's just labeled professional. And then I have this other folder called a professional service. I don't know the difference between those two things. So that's certainly something that I'm going to look at. I might rename a folder and call it like accomplishments, or I might name it post-tenure review. And it looks like here I even started to do a post-tenure review folder, just looking at my screen. So those are just some ideas of how I'm going to think about doing some digital organization and just try to get a grip a little bit on what's happening with my files. Some of those other things I mentioned, so that fun video game project where I was blowing up cabbages, that new Unity project, that will probably go in a folder, and I might just call it like, past, workshops or academic projects or something like that. So I know I have it. I can go back to it if I want to, but I'm not getting rid of it. I'm hoping that will help a little bit. I noticed too, just looking in my documents very quickly, I've got some folders for softwares that I'm no longer using. So those will also be maybe some quick deletes. And then I want to leave you with two other suggestions, because I did dig around to see if I could find out if anybody has a great strategy for digital organization or anything like that. And not surprisingly, most of this was focused on teaching, and a lot of it was more at the K through 12 level. However, I did find two really great articles to share with you about organizing your course files, because that's something that most of us as academics are doing. So we have to think about, how are we going to separate a spring 2018 class from a spring 2019? What's our storage system? So one of them is a post from Teaching in Higher Ed about keeping course files organized. I will put a link to it in the show notes. But this one was really good because it just talked about how to have a system that you adhere to every single time to make sure things go in the right spot. They also have a podcast, which I did not know, and I do plan to check it out. So just as a shout out to a fellow podcast, I'm going to check that out because I really like the content in this article. So that's a good one. Another one, anything by Professor Hacker from Chronicle of Higher Education. And now I guess Professor Hacker has gone kind of indie and away from Chronicle, but there are some organizational posts in there. So another one that was put in here is about organizing your teaching materials. And again, I will put that in the show notes. I'm also showing it just quickly on the screen for people that are watching the YouTube video. But I do like this article for the fact that it helps you make some decisions, because some of the things we create digitally, we don't need to keep. They're not things we're going to use again, but sometimes they are things we need. And so there's just some decision making that's in this article. I think that's really useful. Also, why you might need paper versus a digital copy. That's another really great strategy that's listed in there. Some file organization. And then she even gives, I'm just going to put this up on the screen for YouTube folks, but she even gives some different options for organizing things, where you can organize things by a course in a folder, or you can organize them by a semester in a folder. And that may make more sense to you depending on if you're on a tenure track or going for a promotion, how your institution likes that data. If they like it by course, then it makes more sense to organize it by course for you. If they like it by semester, then that would be another way that you could think about organizing it. And then just bringing this full circle again to why you're messing around with this, where maybe you should be pumping out an article or a book chapter or something like that, is that these kinds of real small tweaks can be done in these extra spaces. Hopefully you have some extra spaces during the summer. They might, maybe you'll give yourself 15 minutes a day to deal with the digital, but at least for me, I've kind of said, oh, I'll do it later. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, it's really tough now for me to find things, and it's in a way where now it's hindering my time. So for many of you that are either just starting out, or maybe it hasn't gotten quite as out of hand as mine has, This is a good way to just reset your productivity with a tweak where you're not forcing yourself to do something that's really difficult. This is kind of, mindless, could be something you could do while, watching Netflix. It just doesn't demand the same kind of attention. And if you're not sure about whether keeping or saving something, you can just leave it in there. No problem. Some things can be deleted, and even that will help a great deal. So hopefully these tips help you. We will put the links to these articles in the show notes, and happy writing this week.